Even as the Supreme Court today effectively told Trump he has to pay E. Jean Carroll for sexually abusing her. Even as the Supreme Court today told Trump to back off trying to mess with people voting by mail. Even as the Supreme Court today restricted the government, the police, from grabbing your cell phone data with no warrant and no probable cause just because of where you physically were when you had your phone on you. Even as the court today told Trump to back off trying to fire Lisa Cook from the Fed Board of Governors. Today, nevertheless, is going to be remembered at the court for what it told Trump he can do. In dissent, liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor called today's ruling, quote, profoundly destabilizing. She said the majority ruling in the Slaughter case today, quote, gives the president a power unknown even to the English crown against which the founders revolted, elevating him above his once co-equal branches. There's a whole bunch of agencies inside the U.S. federal government that were set up by Congress to be repositories of expertise, of technical skill and experience, and therefore to be insulated from political pressure, from having its whole staff turn over every time a new president is elected. And think like, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission or the Consumer Product Safety Commission, right? These are not necessarily the most exciting agencies in the world. They're not agencies that make a ton of news, but you know what they do, right? Right? And they're agencies that you want to have expertise. You want them to know what they're doing. Right? The Consumer Product Safety Commission is exactly what it sounds like. That's the agency that makes sure you can't, sell a toaster that's guaranteed to set your kitchen on fire, or a baby toy that's going to poke your kid's eye out. Consumer Product Safety Commission. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, also exactly what it sounds like. They oversee, for example, the safety of nuclear reactors, so we don't have a Chernobyl in Kansas or a Fukushima in Virginia. How enthused are you by the idea that Donald Trump is now free to fire everyone at agencies like that for no reason at all other than the fact that he feels like it? Even though there are laws saying people should only be fired from agencies like that for cause, the Supreme Court said today that Donald Trump can fire everybody at those agencies for no reason at all. What that means is that Trump is free to fire all of the nuclear regulatory experts, right? And the people who make sure we're not buying toasters that are also flamethrowers, right? Trump is now free to fire all of those people who have expertise in matters like that. And he's free to replace them with, I don't know, who might he replace them with? Maybe the people who manufacture the proverbial flamethrower toasters? Who also, hypothetically speaking, bought his crypto coin and joined Mar-a-Lago and gave Eric, the blonde son, a bunch of stock and put him on the board. Yeah, you'll now be in charge of toasters and their safety. I mean, this is the National Labor Relations Board, the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, the Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the Federal Mine Safety Commission, the National Transportation Safety Board, that's the people who investigate plane crashes. OSHA, the Postal Service Board of Governors, and a gazillion agencies like this. The Supreme Court today said, forget all of our previous precedent, forget generations of federal law that says those agencies are independent authorities and presidents don't get to fire people there for nothing. Today, the Supreme Court said, for Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, we're going to give him the power to fire every single person at all of those agencies and fill them in with, his children, his donors. Who do you think he's going to put in charge of chemical safety and hazard investigation? Think we're going to end up with some real fine scientists there, some real experts? I mean, there's the theoretical kind of academic concern here about the separation of powers and a president effectively being given license to ignore laws, to ignore the laws that are supposed to govern this part of the government. But, the fact that they are so radically expanding presidential power right now for this president in particular, in full cognizance of what exactly this particular president wants to do with his presidential power. It's just really eye-opening in terms of what the right, including the right on the court, wants for this country. I mean, talk about an imperial march. I mean, with the power that he had before today's ruling, what the court did today, I mean, what the court did today, they did knowing what he's already done with his time in power, right? I mean, here's a guy who dumps, tens of millions of dollars into a Trump family cryptocurrency firm. The Securities and Exchange Commission then mysteriously halts its fraud investigation and settles with the guy who just gave the Trump family all the money. That's how the SEC is operating under Donald Trump. Here's the tobacco company giving Trump's political committee $5 million. 1 week later, Trump's FDA decides it's no longer at all concerned that fruit-flavored nicotine vapes might possibly be designed to hook kids. That's already the way that Trump's FDA is operating. I mean, here's Trump's sons taking a financial stake in a mining company because, sure, they have lots of mining expertise, right? And then, wouldn't you know it, that mining company they just took a stake in suddenly finds itself getting up to $1.6 billion from the U.S. Commerce Department for an overseas mining project in Kazakhstan. The White House says that decision has nothing at all to do with the Trump family's connections to that deal, but honestly, that's how the Commerce Department is already operating under Donald Trump. I mean, here's Trump's Secretary of State taking an official State Department meeting with the President of the United Arab Emirates. Seated immediately beside him, seated right beside the U.S. Secretary of State for some reason, is a random young man who does not work for the U.S. government, but who is married to Donald Trump's daughter, Tiffany. What's he doing at a meeting with a foreign head of state, sitting alongside the U.S. Secretary of State? Is that what the U.S. State Department is for? No? Making invitations for Trump family sons-in-law? I should tell you, for his part, Marco Rubio says that he's friends with this particular Trump son-in-law, and the two of them just happened to be in Abu Dhabi at the same time. It was a chance for them to catch up. He literally said a chance to catch up. And so he brought him to the meeting with the head of state. That's how the State Department works under Donald Trump. I mean, here's another Donald Trump son-in-law negotiating foreign policy in the Middle East, while this Donald Trump son-in-law, Jared, is simultaneously on the payroll of Saudi Arabia to the tune of about $2 billion. $2 billion. Billion. And while he is simultaneously seeking additional billions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, while he is making American foreign policy towards Saudi Arabia. That's how American diplomacy works under Donald Trump already. So when the Supreme Court, when the conservative justices on the Supreme Court do something like they did today, these Supreme Court justices are not expanding presidential power in the abstract, right? They're expanding presidential power radically for this president in the middle of this term, when he is already showing what he thinks is the right and proper use of the power and agencies of the U.S. government. I mean, this is a guy who's already basically robbing the National Park Service blind in order to pay for a new granite walkway that he says he paid for himself, but he didn't. I mean, this is the guy who you want to have more personalized, unfettered, unreviewable control over every element of the federal government of the United States of America? You know what he's already doing with every agency and department of the federal government of the United States of America, right?